Hey guys, Wes with Dirt Concepts. Today I'm doing a little bit of a wrench session. I've been racing for the past 4 weekends, so my buggies were definitely in need of some TLC. So just had a few tips and tricks to get your buggy back to a competitive state again, or clean again. So the first thing that I want to cover here is pillow balls. So I know this has been covered in a lot of different YouTube videos and tutorials, but for those of you that haven't seen this method, first thing is with your pillow balls, first thing you want to make sure your uprights are very, very clean. I will go into this next of how I clean them, but once they're clean, you'll use a number 2 pencil to basically coat with graphite the bushing for the pillow ball, as well as the inside of the pillow ball upright with graphite. So that just creates more of like a lubricated surface, a dry lubricant at least, for the pillow balls to ride on, and it keeps your front end free for a greater period of time. In fact, if you do that along with the next tip I'm going to show you, you can actually get 3, maybe 4, up to 4 weekends out of a set of pillow balls without having to take it apart and clean it and do the process over again. The next tip here is making dust covers. So I actually make these out of a ProTech 10 scale chassis protector. So all that leftover chassis protector that you would normally throw away, I usually just keep it, and it allows me to, I can cut out little circles that are the size of that pillow ball nut, just like this. And then what I'll do is, after I finish building my pillow balls, I like the adjustment they're at, I'll actually use a little bit of denatured alcohol or mineral spirits, and I'll clean that pillow ball nut, and I'll go ahead and stick a sticker on top of it, and that just prevents dust from getting in there in the pillow ball and kind of season things up. The next tip that I want to cover is, how do you get your buggy so clean? I've had a lot of people comment this or ask me this. Well, it's actually pretty simple. So what I use is a ultrasonic cleaner, which is right over there. So you can see this is the front end of my Nitro buggy. Is pretty dirty right now. The rear end was much dirtier than that beforehand, so I'm right in the middle of this rebuild. What I do is, you can see my buggy, this is the parts that I've already cleaned on the buggy, and they look pretty much brand new again. So I actually purchased this on Amazon. It's an H&B Luxuries digital ultrasonic cleaner, and it holds 2,500 milliliters of liquid. It's also heated. So what I can do is, I usually set it for 480 seconds, and I'll go ahead and drop the dirty parts in there after I wipe off all the grease from the parts, because no matter what sonic cleaner you have, it's not going to take off grease. So you got to wipe off the grease first. It'll just take off the dirt. Stick them in there, and what I use is a combination. This is kind of dirty since I've already cleaned about half my buggy. I'll use hot water, and then about 10% or maybe 5% of that would be concentrated Simple Green. So what that equates to is filling it up to the max line and doing about a 2 or 3 second pour of Simple Green in there. So give you an idea. And you want to change out this water in between cars. So one fill on this thing will last an entire car of cleaning it, and you can use it on all of your parts. What I do recommend though is clean your parts first in there while the water is really clean, that you don't want to get any kind of residue on. So that would be like your clutch parts, for example. Another one would be like your brakes, or this whole bulkhead, or center bulkhead assembly. You'd actually want to do that first before you do anything else in there, so that way you don't contaminate the brake pads or the brake rotors, as well as your clutch pieces. You don't want to contaminate any of those with any types of oils. So after it runs for 480 seconds, I then take the parts and I'll go ahead and dump them on a towel, and then I will blow them off with an air compressor, and then they come out looking like this, which is, I would say, very not quite new, but definitely in good shape. So when do you want to do this? Well, for example, you buy a used car from somebody and you want to go ahead and go through the buggy and make sure that nothing's wrong with it. Well, I do recommend doing a Sonic Clean on that particular kit, and just to make sure that when you're inspecting it, you don't miss anything. And it also saves you from spending unnecessary money replacing parts that look bad but maybe aren't that bad. They're just really dirty. The other thing is, whenever you Sonic Clean, you do not want to Sonic Clean any of your bearings. You want to try to avoid Sonic Cleaning your screws because they'll get a little bit of rust on them. So I usually take them out. I also take out any of my universals or CVAs, and I actually I clean those manually by hand. The other thing you want to do is pop out your pivot balls and all of your linkage arms. So this is where camber link, for example, I pop out that ball and I just kind of wipe it off with a towel, and just to make sure that, you know, everything is free, because sometimes, you know, even in the Sonic Cleaner there can still be dirt or dust kind of caked in there. So you want to make sure your suspension is really free and smooth and has no grittiness to it. The next thing I like to do is I polish all of the metal pieces that are pivot points, so like hinge pins, for example. So what I like to use is you can get this like AutoZone or O'Reilly's or really any auto parts store. It's just Mother's Mag aluminum polish. I'm sure there's other options that work well. I've just used this for years and it works really good. So I use a microfiber towel, and I put a little bit of mag polish on my towel. You can see where I did a little bit right there. And then I will stick the hinge pin in my drill. So I stick it in the drill chuck, tighten it down, and then I'll go ahead and run it for, you know, maybe 15-20 seconds, not that long, just enough to get it nice and polished and shiny again. What this does is it basically makes your suspension more free and smoother. So the other thing I like to do is I clean, or actually polish, the pivot points on the sway bars. So why do you do this? Well, it's kind of hard to see here, but there's a little bit of etching on that stabilizer bar, and that can actually create binding in your suspension. I've actually found this is one of the key points that you see binding on A-scale buggies and truggies. So I think it's often overlooked. It only takes like 10 seconds to do, so just polish those, and you can do them by hand with Mother's polish. The last thing that I like to do is use a cotton swab with Simple Green, and I will clean the inside of my pill inserts on my hinge pin blocks. So I'll just stick the cotton swab in there soaked in Simple Green, twist it a bunch of times, flip it over, use the dry side to kind of clean out any of that Simple Green residue in there. So you do all this, it's going to make your buggy literally feel like a brand new kit again, you know, as far as how free the suspension is. So hope this little tips and tricks helped you out, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.